webinar today. Today's topic is finding the right location for your business, part 2. We present regular webinars as part of our commitment to providing the most up-to-date information, resources, and information to Chicago's small business community. We invite you to visit our online resource for small businesses. Here, you may find information on federal, state, city, and private support resources on our ChiBizHub portal, chibizhub.com/COVID-19 support. ChiBizHub is the city's online portal that links expert service providers to Chicago small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups looking to start, grow, or scale their business. In the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, we quickly shifted our work to include webinars like the one today, providing a forum where our small business owners and operators can gather and get up-to-date information in real time and have a chance to get their questions answered. In some, we're all in this together. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Kendra Thomas, who is also a business resource provider at ChiBizHub, who will walk us through the agenda and introduce our guests today.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. We are super excited to have 3 wonderful panelists today. And so we will actually start with the agenda. And we will have, of course, the introduction that will be led by myself. And then after the introduction, Jasmine and I will have a panel discussion with our 3 panelists. And then we will open up the chat. So if there are any questions from any of the participants, we want to ensure that you are able to ask those questions. So I want to go ahead and get started, and I want to start with introducing our first panelist, Mr. Juan Saldana. So we are so appreciative that you were able to join us today. And I just want to share a little bit about Juan in P3 Markets. He's the principal there and what they've been doing for the community. P3 Markets provides a comprehensive approach to real estate investments that inspire real measurable change for low to moderate income communities. By connecting local entrepreneurs with promising real estate opportunities, by connecting local entrepreneurs with promising real estate opportunities, their public-private partnerships create shared long-term wealth for both investors and communities alike. P3 Markets understands that outstanding real estate projects should deliver fair market returns for both investors and local communities they influence. Their 2 goals are very simple, and that's to generate risk-adjusted ROIs and maximize community impact one investment at a time. So again, we are very thankful to have Mr. Juan Saldana here.
Hello.
Next, we have Mr. Malcolm Crawford, and Malcolm serves as the Executive Director of the Austin African American Business Network. The Austin African American Business Network is a nonprofit corporation, and their mission is to support African American businesses through advocacy, economic development, entrepreneurial training, and business-to-business networking. And so through a lot of the different workshops and different panels that he's actually been hosting, he's been able to pool resources for the African American community. So we are extremely excited to have Mr. Malcolm Crawford today. Thank you so much for joining. And last, but certainly not least, we have Mr. Moses Hall. And so Moses started his real estate career in 2014 as a licensed realtor. Moses actually specializes in commercial investment property acquisitions, and commercial real estate disposition. In January 2019, Moses launched Mohall Commercial and Urban Development, where his focus is redevelopment through commercial real estate and investment properties. Through collaborative efforts, his ultimate goal is to revitalize communities and build wealth through real estate on the south side of Chicago. His mission has been highlighted in publications, and he's received the prestigious honor of being named Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30 class of 2019. So congratulations on that phenomenal accomplishment. And he currently serves as the 2020 National Association of Realtors Vice Chair of the Commercial Economic Issues and Trends Forum, and also on the NRA Board of Directors. So we are extremely excited to have you here today. Thank you all so much for joining. We definitely appreciate your time. And so we want to go ahead and we want to actually get started. And so I want to start by asking just a very simple question. So we want to learn more about your firms and your organizations and what each of you do to specifically assist entrepreneurs and business owners. So Moses, would you mind actually leading us and telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, no problem. So Mohawk Commercial and Urban Development, we're a full service commercial brokerage. What that means, we assist tenants, landlords, also investors, developers, in identifying places that meets their investment goals or business needs. And we also help, as you mentioned, disposition. We help sell buildings as well, whether it's retail, industrial, office, multifamily. So we're pretty much encompass of all aspects of the commercial real estate world.
Awesome, awesome. Juan, would you mind sharing a little bit more about P3 Markets?
Absolutely. So P3 Markets, we're a minority owned real estate development firm. We're a full-fledged development firm. What that means is that we actually acquire property and develop it for commercial use. Mostly we're focused on multifamily, mixed income, mixed use projects. We carry what we call a triple bottom line approach, people, profit, and environment or location. So P3, the actual acronym is public-private partnerships, and basically P3s are about collaboration, transparency, and trust. So we want to deliver both profits and benefits to local economies. So we create impact models to make sure that we do that. Some of our investors are impact funds from all over the world. So that's a pretty cool thing about P3 Markets. We're local, but we have a global reach. So currently we're partnering up with the City of Chicago to provide technical assistance. For the Chicago Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, we have a small group of construction management service providers within our company. And we have 12 clients that represent an aggregate investment of about $9 million in local investment in neighborhoods. We're also a co-developer, a joint venture partner of the Habitat Company. They are a full service development firm, and we're currently building out a mixed use, mixed income master plan development in Brownsville. So we're very excited to bring that project to fruition. Things are moving along very well, and this administration has been very good to us. So thank you.
You're welcome. Local with a global reach. You have to incorporate that somehow. I love it. That is phenomenal.
I'm gonna talk to Moses. You know, he's got the style.
I love it. And then we have Mr. Malcolm Crawford. If you can just share a little bit more about AAA BNA and just what you've been able to do in the Austin community.
So AAA BNA is Austin's African American Business Network and Association, and we're an association of area business owners. And so we started out as just a little networking group of about 5 or 10 business owners. And over the years, we have morphed into an organization of about 40 or 50. And we have many business owners from Charmaine Riquette, who's our chair, Uncle Remus, MacArthur's Restaurant, and now we have places like Ice House Liquors. Now we have people like City of Chicago, and we have different ones now who have become a part of our organization. We were the organization that helped to create the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and the ordinance was put forward by our organization, AAA BNA, back in the day. And I can pretty much say I probably know where most of the bones are buried with different things that has happened around the town. When I write my book, it'll be phenomenal because most of it, we were there with AAA BNA getting things done. And so we're excited about the Soul City Corridor. And so the city of Chicago has places like Greektown and Chinatown and Boys Town and Little Italy and Canaryville and all of these wonderful cultural enclaves that we have in the city. But what we hadn't had was a place that served as an economic driver for African Americans. And so working with the city of Chicago, we have now taken a strip along Chicago Avenue, a mile stretch that we're responsible for, and where we own 70% of the properties in this corridor, and we're developing Soul City as we speak.
Excellent.
Wow, thank you. How am I supposed to continue after that, right? We're curious to know, pivoting a little bit on kind of what the market has looked like. We're curious to know, do you think in your expert advice, the need to find a brick and mortar space has increased or decreased during the COVID-19 pandemic? And can you please explain your reasoning? Juan, might you be able to tackle this first, please?
Sure, absolutely. So it's actually all across the board. We have local and national retailers looking for different opportunities. So what happens is that there's a big reshuffling going on. So it depends on the type of business commercial user that you are. So if you're an office user and you're in downtown Chicago, because of everything that happened with the issues, you might start to look for infill office, which is now becoming more or less a bright spot when we consider urban environments. They're also moving to co-working and shared office. We have a shared office space called Esquina now here in Little Village, looking to sort of create that halfway point between the downtown office, where a lot of people were used to going to meet and be with their colleagues and do work within an office environment. So another thing is obviously hospitality. You want to be as close as possible to the market that you're serving. And sometimes we have restaurants that have tremendous clientele, but now they're looking to do more delivery. And so they're becoming more tech enabled than before. And so a different type of retail is commercial property is now being appended because of that. Something like a ghost kitchen or commercial kitchen where to do offsite cooking might be sprouting up for a lot of larger retailer brands, such as Wendy's that is now investing or working with ghost kitchens. And so the market is changing very rapidly. Technology has a big part of that. But also I think very specific to Chicago, we do have some shifts happening. And so the other thing that's happening, there's a resurgence of going local. A lot of businesses want to stay in their neighborhoods. What we realize is that having grocery stores and essential workers stay in the neighborhoods is actually extremely competitive, not only for the local economy, we have people going to work, et cetera, but also because people feel more comfortable, more compelled to be able to, get the things that they need from their local retailers. So that being said, I believe that there is going to be a shifting. I would say in some areas there's going to be an increased demand, in some areas decreased, and that's because of location shifts.
Thank you. Moses, might you be able to share some perspective?
Yeah, kind of piggyback of what Juan said. For me and my business, I'm seeing an increased demand for industrial space. That's kind of been what's been keeping me busy at this moment, as there's a need for more online ordering. Distributors and manufacturers need more space for industrial and developing. And as we kind of see, Amazon has, tripled during this pandemic because more people are ordering online. So for me and my business and what I'm seeing on the ground, there's been increased demand for industrial. And then also for investors, they're looking at a lot of multifamily, even though, certain people have struggled paying their rent, but there's still an appetite for that. Obviously, office has taken a decrease in people renewing their leases and stuff like that because they just don't know which way this pandemic is going to swing. And then retail, depending on the type of business, certain retail businesses are still thriving. And then obviously some are taking a beating if they're not able to make the adjustments and shift, as kind of Juan alluded to. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on my end. I really think it really just depends on your business model. If you're able to shift to the current demand, and if you can do that shift, then you should be able to kind of weather the storm. But yeah, there still is a demand for brick and mortar. It just really depends on your type of business. For example, if you're an event space owner, that's kind of hard right now to operate an event space in the middle of. That obviously wouldn't be a huge demand for a brick and mortar, as hence we're on a virtual Zoom call. In normal circumstances, I'm pretty sure this would be a physical event workshop that we would have. So it's all dependent on your business and what you're looking to do.
Last but not least, Malcolm, would you like to shed some perspective on this too?
Well, where we are, everything has become super local. And as far as it relates to the Austin community and the corridor redevelopment, we found through our research that 85% of the disposable income of Austin, which is 100,000 people, goes across the street to Oak Park. And so that translates into about $250 million in leakage that leaves Austin and goes across the street in Oak Park. And so what we've gone about the business of doing is shoring up the corridor and finding out what it is that people want and what they would like in Austin. And so we've gone about the business of creating an entertainment focused corridor. And so from that, a lot of our members, because we've been around a little while, people have been going about the business of purchasing property and now putting people into property. And it's one of those things where you see things happening, but you don't jump in. And by the time it happens, you say, I remember that building. I didn't think that that was going to happen. And now you turn around and you see a community and it's developed. And that's what's starting to happen now. And so it's been super local, and the corridor, the storefronts have all been pretty much taken up by local businesses, which is phenomenal. And a lot of people starting to cross the street because the rents are much higher in Oak Park. Property taxes are much higher in Oak Park. And you're just across the street. You can actually look or step across the street in Oak Park. So everything has become super local here in Austin. And yes, there is still, and there is an increasing appetite. And I believe with the Invest Southwest, which has come along into corridor redevelopment, that's another shot that people are starting to really look at opening up brick and mortar businesses, as well as Chicago Avenue is also part of an enterprise zone. And so that's another opportunity. So for us, super local, and yes, people are still interested in brick and mortar.
Thank you, Malcolm. You actually are leading us into the next question. So Jasmine and I, we talk to entrepreneurs and business owners all the time. And so as you mentioned, a lot of them are looking for brick and mortar locations. And so for all of you, I'm just really thinking about when you're working with entrepreneurs and business owners, what are some of the factors in your experience that are very, very, very helpful when these people are looking for brick and mortar locations or selecting their spaces? What are some things that they need to keep in mind? So Malcolm, if you can just kind of elaborate on that, because we've had this question a lot in the last few months.
Yeah, so a lot of things that I try to talk to people about is what's next door to you. And so, because you don't want to have a daycare center next to a bar. And and a lot of times what happens is people just see a location and they don't actually know the zoning for that location. You go in and you do a ton of work. Nobody tells you you didn't pull permits. Then when you go to open up and they tell you this was a reading nook. I'm just making something up. A reading nook. And you want to have it as a restaurant. And you say, where did all this equipment come from? And so now you spend all of this money and you've invested all this into a business and you can't open up. And I've seen that happen to people. And it's just really pulls at your heart when people just don't know what to look for. You look at traffic flow. That's important. You look at crime in the area. That's important. If everything's happening on your block, nobody's coming to your business. So those are the kind of things that we talk to people about to definitely look at, what businesses are in the corridor, traffic flow, and then what is that property zone for? Because that is extremely important.
Thank you, Malcolm. I hope everyone is able to take notes. I know we have a lot of people that are in our audience that really appreciate those tidbits that you've shared. Moses, if you can actually share your expertise on this topic as well.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback off what Malcolm has said, I think that's why it's important to have a solid team, such as having a realtor, having an attorney, because in lease negotiations, I would make the lease contingent on approval of permits and things like that in zoning, so that you're not stuck, with a lease and you can't operate your business. So that's a part of lease negotiations. That's a part of doing your due diligence. That's about having the right team of people, partnering with local community organizations that can also help you during this process. I think a lot of times people just pop up with these ideas, and like you said, they just see a space and they don't do their due diligence. They don't talk to the alderman. They don't meet with the community. They don't understand what the community needs are. And when you don't do that, then you run into those issues where you've spent so much money on build out and you can't even open your doors. So I think it's important to do your due diligence, have a solid team, start with a business plan. That will kind of help you, alleviate some of the stress that most business owners run into when they're trying to open up a business.
Can I just say this? I love what Moses just said about building a team. You cannot be in this by yourself. You have to have a team. I love that. I'm gonna use that. Make sure you have a team.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm back.
Thank you. Thank you. So Juan has rejoined. And so Juan, if you can just share your expertise on when you speak with entrepreneurs or business owners, what advice do you give them when they're looking for a brick and mortar space?
Actually, we have a process where we have them do a due diligence checklist. We want to make sure the clients, et cetera, use, a location, et cetera, where you want to be. Accessibility is extremely important, but very important also when you're trying to go into a property. Obviously, you have to improve it in some way. It's not going to be set up for that particular retailer immediately. So more than likely, you're going to have to look very heavily at what's already there. So I want to make sure we're looking at the mechanicals first to make sure that those things are in place. Also electrical, mechanicals, plumbing, those things are very important. So I always try to look at it like I'm going to build into this space. So there's definitely a process that I have to undertake. And that process includes a due diligence checklist. That also, like Malcolm mentioned, you want to make sure that the use of your project or your concept matches what's happening in that neighborhood. Who are your neighbors? Also making sure that you're in the right kind of space, that the community is aware of what you're doing. There's been many a times when people do things backward. The other thing is obviously when you're going into a lease, those things are very extensive. I would always advise people to have some legal assistance, potentially an architect or a contractor that'll be there with you to overlook some of these things that are going to eventually come up no matter what. So by having this checklist, I call it goal phasing. You want to make sure that you don't put the cart before the horse. You go ahead and you check everything off. I also never fall in love with any space, no matter how nice it looks, because you have to be very, very neutral about where you're going into, because it might not work out. You might think I'm getting a good deal here, but someone across the street might be selling a piece of property and you have enough wherewithal capacity to buy versus lease. And so you have to weigh in the options. So I always ask entrepreneurs to have a pro forma for the property specific part of the project, and also to have an operational plan that includes what their expected return on investments are going to be for the business. So this is very important as they move forward for it to be sustainable. You have to be able to cover your leasehold, or if you're going to make a purchase, et cetera, you want to make sure that at least you're able to sublease that property at some point in the future. So I always advocate for a lot of education, and definitely look for local partners that are there to help you, local chambers of commerce, et cetera. People like Moses are probably doing a lot of webinars, things of that nature. Myself, when we go into communities, we try to really spend a little extra time with entrepreneurs to show them where the pitfalls are, where the risks are, and to calculate those risks, because there's an investment risk that is time, right? Time, energy, and effort that can be spent on pursuing the right deal. You want to really focus heavily on the due diligence. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you, Juan. You actually hit on a lot of points right now, and that has to do, right, with leasing or purchasing and what should one consider. And so I want to make sure we cover this throughout the time. In your opinion, Moses, please kick us off with this. I feel like you're really the expert on this one. Should small business owners be leasing or purchasing at this time, and why?
kind of piggyback what Juan said, you have to do a cost analysis, what makes sense. I'm in the middle of a restaurant deal where initially my clients were looking to lease, but with the lease amount and the build out costs, we saw something that was for sale. And we were like, why not? It was a low risk. They were able to qualify for certain local grants that cover the construction. And they're taking out a small, literally a small loan to buy the facility, which would have been less than what they were paying in rent. So like Juan said, it's a cost analysis that really makes sense. And for me, another way to look at it is if there's other tenants in the building. So let's just say you're buying a 3-flat mixed-use building. So some people don't know that can potentially qualify for a residential home loan. If you decide to live in one of the units and you can rent out the second floor unit, and then you can use the retail space to run your business, you can literally buy a home loan mortgage, take out that to buy a building, and your mortgage can be covered by another tenant. You know, or if you decide to buy a small neighborhood retail strip center where there may be 3 other tenants there and there's a 4th space that's vacant, the lender, they can underwrite the deal based on the current rents that are coming in, and there's a long-term leases in place that kind of secures you. So it's a cost benefit analysis that I would see if it makes sense to lease or to buy. But for the most part, I would encourage most business owners to lease starting out. And it just really depends on the area that you're looking in and also your type of business, and kind of focus from there. But like I said, if it's an opportunity that you can't pass up on, like you said, the restaurant deal I'm doing, it just made sense. It was just too affordable for them not to purchase versus lease. So I think it's just really dependent on the business.
Malcolm, I'm not sure if you would like to chime into this comment. Thank you.
I was saying, no, they nailed it pretty good.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah, I would definitely echo what Moses and Malcolm said. Right now, because of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant that's available, especially in Black and Brown communities, I would urge people to think a little bit more about buying and purchasing, because there's other funds that might be available. The state of Illinois is also providing a little bit of assistance when you're looking to purchase. As you know, a lot of communities, as they start changing and shifting, we have other developers that start looking at those opportunities. So some of the Oak Park developers, you know, in the Austin example, are going to say, you know, I can just go develop on the other side. I'll start buying some buildings. And I just want to, you know, be very unapologetic about this. Why should we let that happen? If there is some grants available and the administration is pushing for community development and community wealth, it's time to, you know, kind of buck up and do it, right? There's also a lot of lending institutions like community development financing institutions like CDFIs, IFF, LISC, community loan fund, Chicago Community Loan Fund. They are there to really assist you and take a little bit more risk. So you'd be surprised in the Moses example of a restaurant saying, well, I'm going to invest $250,000 to outfit this location. And you'd be surprised that a building is going to cost you about the same amount of money that you're investing in the tenant improvement. You're like, wait a minute. And then the lease works out better, and all of a sudden you're in a better position. Well, also a bank looks at that as an asset. And so you end up creating an asset for yourself. Not only depends on how you structure it, you know, that could be a separate LLC that could own the property, and then your business is a separate business. And so you actually, in essence, have 2 businesses in one. At that, you know, at that level, I would obviously be working with someone like Malcolm that has the extended capacity to advise somebody, or someone like Moses that has a team, or myself even, to make sure that the cost benefit analysis there, that the pro forma is airtight, and that can be an actual thing that can make that person more prosperous. So I definitely agree with both Moses and Malcolm that, you know, there is some bright spots in the market, especially for local, and we should, you know, Black and brown people should be unapologetic and say, no, I want to buy. And so in this environment, A lot of landlords are also letting go of properties because they just have too much on their books. So in these environments, I think there's a lot of ways to make funding if you have the right, make money if you have the right people around you. So grow your team, grow your social network, grow your social capital, and you'll be in a better place.
Thank you. Thank you. That was phenomenal. Thank you, Jasmine, for leading those great discussions. So we talked a little bit about leasing versus buying. So if you are working with an entrepreneur or business owner that is actually looking to lease, what would be an appropriate lease term for them, especially during these times with COVID-19? So Moses, we're going to kind of lean on you to start the discussion again.
Well, typically in commercial leases, landlords look for a minimum of 3 years versus like residential where it's like a 1-year lease. But what I would really pay attention to during these times is your sublease clause. You want to have the flexibility to, if in the event that your business is struggling or not be able to survive, unfortunately, that you want to be able to have a sublease opportunity where the landlord will grant you an opportunity to sublease to another stronger business. So is one thing I would pay attention to: the length of the lease, the sublease clause, and if there's any rental increases throughout the years each year. So those are the 3 highlights that I would, just off the top of my head, that I would encourage people to pay attention to. Of course, it varies business to business, property type to property type. So, but those are the 3 main things that I would tell people to focus on: is the length of the lease, the rental bumps and increases throughout the lease, and more importantly, that sublease clause, and how you can have an opportunity to get out of your lease in the event something doesn't go right.
Wow, thank you. I think that's very, very incredible information that you were able to share, because even during these times, we see that some people still that are renting different spaces are going to increase, unfortunately. But I know they have, a job to do in their business. Malcolm, have you seen anything with any of the businesses that you've been working with terms of leasing agreements, or has that changed since COVID-19?
Yeah, I would say that people have to be very careful right now, because what I've seen, and this is the advocacy part of what we do, you take people who are taking their life savings and they really don't know real estate, and so this goes back. I love what Moses said about putting together a team, because what happens is you go in and you rehab this wonderful space and you put $200,000 into this space, and you get a 2-year lease, and the landlord tells you, I don't really necessarily, you don't know me. Let's see how this works out. You don't have the clause that Moses just talked about. And now here you are, with them telling you, we're going to double your rent or you're going to have to leave. And they have every right to, because according to your 2-year lease, your lease is up. And so a lot of businesses now, or new startups, and that's what we're mainly dealing with now, is startups. And so there are those who will take advantage of startups right now, because, like I said, and that's the advocacy part of us, that that talk to the businesses and tell them, really be careful. Well, I really want a nice space, so I'm willing to put all in. It's not your space. And you go in and put everything you own in there, and you get a 2-year lease. That should give you room to pause, and hopefully you'll be able to talk to somebody, like Moses and Juan, and that can tell you, these are the things you need to do before you sign a lease, and really be looking at, because if you're really in business, I always tell people, don't go to gamble and you only take $1 with you. If you in, you in. If you're not, you're not. But if you're gonna go in on your business, make sure that you're going in knowing that if it's that important to you, then it's important to others. But if you don't give it 110, nobody else is. So it starts with just making sure that you dot those I's and cross those T's, and making sure that you if I can't stress anything else, it's the team concept and having people working with you that can help you over the hump. Because a lot of landlords right now are in a crunch, and when people are coming in and they're bringing some money in, and they have this empty space and they need to develop, they're gonna say a lot of things that might sound good to you right now, but you're gonna have a problem with them later.
Thank you. We appreciate your honesty and your advocacy, Malcolm. I know that's a very, very important topic to you. Juan, can you please, again, share with us some of your knowledge and what you've been seeing with some of the entrepreneurs and business owners that you've been working with during these times?
Yeah, I think what Moses said about the clauses are extremely important. What Malcolm said about understanding your all-in costs is super important. Our conversation around due diligence is super important. In brown communities, we have, se habla inglés or no se habla español, right? And so there's a lot of folks that do get taken advantage of severely. It breaks my heart to see this happen over and over again. And it is because, as Malcolm said, they go to the table just, looking like this is a gamble. In reality, this is a negotiation. So, I say green is king. If you have the money and you're ready to go, you better go and negotiate your tenant improvement. Why do you have to put up all the money yourself, right? If someone wants you bad enough in their location, they're going to give you money to go ahead and put your business in there. So, for example, especially around your mechanicals, there's no reason on earth they should be paying for plumbing. Absolutely not. That belongs to the owner, right? The electrical, service, if they need to upgrade it, guess what? That's something that could be negotiated, but because those things add value to that specific property. I would even negotiate mechanical systems, right? Because you have to have the right, makeup air conditions to serve your customers. I've seen so many restaurants go in there, have a turbo mechanical plan, and there's water falling because of condensation in the roof, and you're like, well, your customers are not going to be there. So you got to really look holistically at what's happening. So make sure that the things that belong to the owner of the building stay on the side of that equation. And so I go in there and I think about it from this perspective. This is my money. This is my idea. This is my plan. I am going to negotiate until I am blue in the face or they're blue in the face. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to win. And I bring my team behind me. And we do what we have to do. And everyone should do it the exact same way. Do not feel ashamed. A lot of people are ashamed to ask questions. They're like, oh my God, I don't know. They're going to kick me out. Have them kick you out. Moses will find you a new place. Malcolm will find you a new place. Juan will find you a new place. Do not fall in love with any place whatsoever, because you know what? There's more than enough. And there's new developments that are coming. And I guarantee you that all of these new developments, like the one we're doing in Brownsville, we're looking for local. We love the national retailers because they pay, they got good credit, they got all of that. But the story is about creating Black and brown and localized success stories. That is what we need in this economy and every economy. If you look at what's happening in the nation as a whole, we have to really tip the scales to make sure that we're servicing local people, right? And so we want to see success stories. And you know what? If a landlord is preventing you from that success, go to another landlord. Get yourself a better team. Do not fall into these traps, because that happens a lot. So I'm a strong advocate to avoid all those issues. And if there's anything I can do or things that all of us can do for you, thank you so much. We'll be there to do that for you.
Thank you, Juan. I love exactly what you hit on. You reminded me, I just had this conversation all in Spanish for my Spanish webinar series, but talking about the negotiating aspect, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's almost like a cultural thing or something, this like shame attached to not asking more questions because you will feel a little dumb or like, oh, I should know this already. But I appreciate that, Kendra and I convened 3 experts like you that are telling our audience specifically, you know what, it's fine, ask questions. And if you even for an inkling feel like this person is not servicing you the way they should, you leave that table, because there's going to be someone else like Juan, like Moses, like Malcolm, that will help you out. So thank you so much for that. I want to get a little bit more into the weeds about what information or documentations should entrepreneurs have prepared before buying or leasing a space. And I was thinking, Malcolm, you can kick us off with this, given how much advising you do to small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Give me that one more time. I was multitasking.
No worries. What information or documentation should entrepreneurs have prepared before buying or leasing a space?
Well, I think personally for themselves, they should have a plan. They should have a definitely a business plan. And business plan isn't always what we think it is that you get out of a book or off the internet. But actually, how do you plan to grow your business? How do you plan? I mean, who is your clientele? All of those kind of things. Are you marketing? Those kind of things. I really just say one of the biggest things that you should have is a plan. I mean, because and it's a cliche, but if you don't have a plan, then you do have a plan. You plan to fail. So it's really important that as you're going in business, that you look 6 months out, you look a year out, you look 5 years out, and you go according to that, and you take the worst case scenario. You don't look at the best case scenario because that's going to happen, but you look at the worst case scenario. What happens 6 months out? Do I have reserves? And what COVID has taught all of us, well, I know what it has taught me, is planning will sustain you over time. Because if you'd have told me that 6 months with no income, I'd be sitting here having this conversation with you guys, I would tell you guys are crazy. But 6 months, because of strategic planning and looking out, 6 months out, year out, 5 years out, it's allowed us the opportunity to still keep doing what we do. And I'm a property owner, and so I've been able to continue on with my properties, and I think it's because of the planning. So more than anything, mine is just simple. You have to plan, and you have to continuously plan success with your business, and you have to be willing to pivot. Because if you have a bit, and I'll tell you, this is an honest story. I used to have a clothing store, and my clothing store at that time, I had come from East Africa. I was in Kenya, and I brought in clothing from Kenya, and I had a cultural store, and I bought all of these clothes, and we had containers come in, and we had this wonderful store. And for whatever reason, I couldn't sell the dresses, and I couldn't understand it. And a lady came in, and she was a bigger lady, and she told me, she said, you'd never have anything for us. And I said, well, I have clothes. And she says, no, the women that wear these clothes look like me. Haven't you noticed that? You're talking about the women in East Africa who don't look like me. I never thought about that there's two different, shape, sizes, and that kind of thing. But you know what I did? I had to pivot. I had to go and have my clothes made differently so that I can accommodate the people who were going to purchase from me. I didn't say, well, you know what? That's just one person. I'm going to hold the line until somebody walks in here that looks like Kendra, and I'm going to be able to sell them some clothes. I said, nah, I got to go because this mortgage is due because I own the property. This mortgage is due. And if she says she's going to buy from me, I'm going to go find some clothes for her to wear. She can tell her friend. And that actually happened. And I had that lady and her friends for clients for years because I thought enough about what my clients were saying, that what my customers were saying, to actually give them what they wanted.
Juan, do you have any feedback on documentation by any chance? Maybe a little bit more like what a business plan or financial plan should include?
Absolutely. First of all, I agree with Malcolm. I think a lot of businesses sometimes think that build it and they will come. I'm here to tell you that's absolutely incorrect. You want to build an audience first. Learn how to make $1. So if you have a restaurant, go to a shared kitchen and sell all of your food to as many people as possible, make your money, right? So what I would say first is to have a pro forma for your project. Think of it as you're developing this particular property, even if you're going to lease it, right? And I would have a due diligence checklist that goes over, when you go to buy a car, they do 175-point inspection. Well, if you're going to buy a car that's $20,000 and you're going to invest $250,000 in a property, wouldn't you think that you have some kind of inspection checklist that you have to look through and make sure that everything fits? That's what I would do, right? Even when you go to the city of Chicago and you get licensing, If you work with one of the folks down at the city of Chicago, they have an entire list of things that they have to review. So what I would do is basically do that first, educate myself first on leasing commercial property. You don't have to be an expert, but again, you can work with someone like Moses, people on my team, or others, but there's a lot of good information out there that's available. And I would literally go through the checklist and make sure that I do the due diligence to the point where if I don't understand something, I ask somebody else to come and help. So have an architect, have a construction company at your disposal. Make sure that people understand what you're doing. Definitely doing the zoning review is very important. Sometimes environmental reviews are super important. You go into a building, there's asbestos on the floor, there's lead, you know what I mean? Those things are very expensive to remediate. So environmental reports are going to be extremely necessary. So yeah, again, going back to looking at, do not move to another phase unless you do your due diligence in each of the phases that are important. And so when you go to a bank, the bank's going to want to see that at the very least you understand where are the pitfalls of your business, especially around leasing. They want to make sure that you understand what are the risks of being in that location. You put in $200,000 and your lease is 3 years. Well, you know, that might be a red flag for a lender. They're like, well, you know, that's a lot of money to spend on a location, you know, sublease clause, but also extension clauses, right? I do 3 years, I make it awesome. Then I get to keep a low rate, you know, so I don't get my double the rent after 3 years. So control the future and be able to be flexible. So when you're doing this lease document, make sure you're talking to your legal professionals and also to your accountant. Want to make sure that when you're looking at taxes, if you're going to buy a building versus leasing a building, there's different tax consequences. So we'll make sure that you have those professionals already on your speed dial. So definitely, I think if I would say one thing is spend more time on your due diligence than you might even equal amount of time on your due diligence as the same as you're going to do for development or tenant improvements. I think you'll be very well served. You know, time is money, and so you'll know right away if you're not complying with zoning. It's going to take you 9 months to get compliant with zoning. You need a liquor license. Guess what? That's a dry area. You got to move on. So you start doing this faster and faster. The idea is get in early, get as much information on your due diligence report checked off. If it does not fit, do not fall in love, move on, get to the next location.
Well, I'll jump in with Juan in terms of documents. Pretty much like, you know, Juan and Malcolm have kind of covered all. I think the important thing is about doing your due diligence, getting your financials in order. That will really alleviate and help smooth the process, building a team, like you said, having an architect, construction people, having a good attorney, because the language in your lease can change the responsibility of what it means. Simple words like and, or, you know, it can change the inflection of who's responsible for what. So I think those things are important, doing your due diligence, building a team, not being, like you said, married to one place. Like you said, Juan said, if it don't work, let's move on. You know, let's not try to force something that is not there. And I think the biggest part, like you said, if you're looking to buy, get your financials in order. You know, credit score, work with your accountant, these things that lenders are going to really take a look at. So I would encourage you to get those things in order, and a business plan will definitely kind of help you flush out some of these ideas. There are different community programs. I know I personally went through Sunshine Enterprises. Obviously there's World Business Chicago, ChiBiz, you know, Score Chicago. So these are all these resources out there for businesses that, you know, such as what Malcolm is doing as well. So there's resources out there for entrepreneurs to really help them flush out ideas. You know, I don't think it's the brightest idea to wake up one day and just say, I want to open up a restaurant, and you have no clue where to start, and you have no clue what the build out costs are. So I think it's about doing your due diligence, and that preparation will prepare you for success.
And whatever you're budgeting, budget double. That's kind of like the adage, right? So like, oh, it's only going to be 100,000. No, it's going to be $200,000 and then some. So, you know, always go the exact opposite of what you think it's going to cost. You know, just add a couple things. Yes, there's a tremendous amount of local resources that are out there, chambers of commerce, like the Little Village Chamber of Commerce has probably saved a ton of businesses from like going under. I'm sure the Austin African American Business Network is going to be very helpful. So get connected and basically, you know, look very carefully at what you're doing. Take this seriously. It's an education, and we understand that, but you don't have to pay a heavy price for the education.
Thank you, Moses, Malcolm, and Juan. We are extremely grateful that you were able to join us today. And we hope that our audience really did have the opportunity to take notes. I know I took a lot of notes because what you shared is so important. Jasmine and I get these questions, and believe it or not, you guys, we have people that want to open businesses that don't have business plans, that haven't did the research. And so that's why we wanted to host a webinar, including you all, so that you can talk about the importance of getting your documents in order. And I just want to have a moment for each of you to share, you know, your website, or if you can put it in a chat so that our audience can know how to locate you. So as Moses mentioned, we do have a lot of business resource providers listed on ChiBizHub. So AAA BNA, Mr. Malcolm Crawford is the executive director, is one that's on our hub. But we want to make sure that people know how to reach you if they have any further questions or concerns after the webinar.
No, AAA. Oh, I'm sorry. So AAA BNA. So you can go to AAABNA.org, and you can kind of look us up and connect with us, and we'll respond. That way, all of our information is on our website, AAABNA.org.
Thank you. Juan, can you please share your information as well?
Absolutely. Website is www.p3markets.com. You can obviously, there's an info page there, a form-based. So go ahead and do a contact form submission, say ChiBizHub conversation, and then we'll see if someone on our team can answer your question. We might be able to share a due diligence checklist that we use for some of our projects for commercial, like it's called a commercial punch-out report. So I think we have something in our database that we might be able to share. If not, then I'll make sure we get something out there so people have that resource.
Thank you. Moses, if you can please share your information.
Actually, I put it in the chat, but you can find me on all social media platforms at Moses Hall. And then my website is mohallcommercialud.com. It's listed in our Zoom chat. So you can copy and paste and contact me there.
Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to say thank you for joining us today. And also to remind you that a recording of today's conversation, along with others, are featured all over our social media and our special COVID-19 resource portal, chibizhub.com/COVID-19 support. As well, I encourage you to follow us on social media for links to future webinars, grants, and information that will help you better run your business during these challenging times. On behalf of everyone at World Business Chicago and ChiBizHub, we wish you and yours good health. And again, thank you for joining us.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.